What's up, y'all? This is a response to I did a good morning vlog yesterday morning, and there was a response from Greg Matic. Like I said, I normally don't do one-on-one response sessions um, because sometimes it can get kind of weird. But this person really had something to say, and it was pertinent to what I was talking about in the vlog. Um, and obviously this person actually watched and listened, so I want to say thank you to Mr. Greg Matic for listening. His response to my good morning vlog yesterday was, there needs to be some kind of advocacy group. People with records need to automatically get their rights restored once done serving, and have access to higher education at a reasonable price, so as to not go back, because the system as it stands only wants to keep people down without having a way for them to help themselves to get up. Banning the box is a start, but there needs to be a legislation. Now, I'm going to say this. Once again, thank you so much for commenting and responding. I'm going to speak very directly. And sometimes when I speak directly, sometimes it does rub people the wrong way. So I do apologize, but I need to be direct in order to try to get my point across. The what I'm holding to is banning the box. It sounds good and it sounds great, but it's definitely not the answer. Um, it is something that would help, but all of that needs to be put aside. What the real solution is, or what the real issue is not banning the box, but dealing with each person as an individual. That means getting to know people. I think I vlogged about this on, I'm not sure if I did it on this channel or another channel, but I didn't get a chance to really address that because it was something that, again, I think people know that you have something to say about it, and that people are not going to receive it well because it goes against, the way somebody stated something or how someone stated something. Um, and that's what I'm working on. And pretty much in the past, I did attempt to start an advocacy group, but again, you have bills to pay and stuff like that, so um, you really don't have time to do that, because while you're working on that, especially if you're like me and it's just me by myself, period, whether it's professional or personal, um, you're constantly on this chase. And if you're a person that's had a situation where your voice has been muted, you're at a chase at a lower rate. So you don't your time is not valued as much. You don't get paid that much. So you spoke about an advocacy group. Um, like I said, in the past, I was doing victims of the criminal justice system, and I was at least speaking out on it and interviewing people. And I have a lot of opportunities during the day to do that. Just when I'm out and about, if y'all watch my vlog, sometimes I walk past and there's a group of guys just, standing on the corner doing what groups of guys do. And those are prime examples. I bet, and I hate to say it, but it's probably true that each and every one of them probably has some dealings with the law in some way. And those are very good resources to interview and to talk to. A lot of times people that are in situations where they've been convicted or so forth, a lot of times it's unlawful, illegal, wrongful. People sometimes are just downright innocent. And then there's times where I used to interview people in the past, and it's been said that, oh yeah, um, I was kind of in a way because I was had this label put on me, but it wasn't for what they said. But they had said that they done enough dirt where they felt like it was justified, even though it wasn't for whatever they said. Now, I don't have a business card per se, but I did put together some networking things that will be business cards eventually. And it's funny that you mentioned advocacy group, because this is, I don't know if you can see, and again, it's just a piece of paper because I don't have business card stock paper, and right now I really don't have time for all of that because I'm on a paper chase for green paper. Unfortunately, we all are in this capitalist society. But advocacy for victims of the criminal justice system, that's my name and my number, which you already have, so it's nothing to hide about that. And then on the back, just as a form of networking, and I can't see because I'm reading backwards here, but for people that have been falsely accused and convicted, for people that experience due to that workplace bullying and mutability. And that's one of the thoughts that I had today. I was mostly sick all day. I had allergies, but that was one of the thoughts that I really, had to deal with, is that, boy, one of the biggest contentions that I had about last night was that I was muted, and there were people that could clearly see I was clearly muted. I had something to say. No one listened. No one heard. No one attempted to hear. No one wanted to hear because it was controversial. I don't know what was going on behind me because I was in the first 3 rows, but whatever it was that I said or however it was that was presented, people completely cut off. And, I would have faced the audience, but the thing about it, if I did that, then they would have labeled me as being rude to the panelists. So in the future, when I'm in a forum like that, I will take an initiative. I will go to the front and I will put myself in a position where I can see the panelists and the audience so I can gauge, what people have to say. There was a young man there, and he, I think, there were people there that are part of the community of those that have been affected by the system. And these people had quote unquote success stories where this guy, he started a business, and I think like he ran out before it was over, but 10 years he's had his business. And then there were stories, of course, that were feel-good stories that the judge told. And, then there were people that understood that, you're not going to get the truth at these types of sessions, and they mentioned it. Then there were people that came to do as much good as they could. But again, everybody's muted to a certain point. And then there was guys like the guy that said he was incarcerated for 26 years that was kicking down the door, because he knew what he had to get, and he was going to get it by any means necessary. But just to get back to what he was saying, there needs to be an advocacy group, and that's what it was. It just says advocate for victims of the criminal justice system. People with records need to automatically get their rights restored once done. Now, I don't believe necessarily that is the answer. Your rights, like the Constitution says that we've been taken away from, your rights, we all have certain quote-unquote inalienable rights that just as a natural man that belong to us. And that's why I have a contention with the phrase enfranchised and disenfranchised people. As you may or may not know, it's been rumored that the birth certificate and the social security card and that type of thing represents the enfranchisement of the individual, of yourself. Your name in all capital letters represents enfranchisement. Your social security card that you receive and birth certificate, there's another portion of it that says that you are the biological property of the United States. So, I mean, when you say you need to get your rights restored, the rights that you've been given to by God, those certain quote unquote inalienable rights are yours. The rights that are quote unquote given to you by systems, by law, by man, in reality, those are imaginary. They don't really exist. They can give or take them as they see fit and create whatever environment that they want to. It's a psychological process. And not only of the individual, but a society as a whole. If you don't get what I'm trying to say, let me know. I'll try to find some examples, but it's true. So you said people with records need to automatically get their rights restored once done serving and have access to higher education. Now, I'm going to tell you this. This is a capitalist society. As long as you got money, you're always going to have quote-unquote access to higher education. Because as long as you're paying for it, or you're indebting yourself or enslaving yourself by creating a debt, and you're allowed to create that debt, then you have access to higher education. I have access to higher education if I pay off my school loans, if I pay out of money to take these classes, whether or not I get a degree or not. I have access to higher education. Maybe it won't be documented on the books as certified, but information is out there. I can go and take courses online, some for free. I can go to the library, to the law libraries. I can go sit in court and listen to cases all day long. So education is out there. As a matter of fact, two of the panelists, Greg Mathis and I don't know the other name. I don't know the name of anyone except for the TV personality because I didn't get the structure. But there was another guy that did Up from Incarceration or something like that. He's an author, and him too. You know, he was on his way to get a master's degree in law. He applied for a job at a gas station, and they would not hire him to do that. Judge Mathis spoke about how he went to work at McDonald's and they would not, but he couldn't work inside the store. He had to work in the parking lot. And he joked that they were scared that he was going to take burgers out the back or something, you know? So I'm going to say this, you know, even though I'm a little bit upset about the fact that I really wasn't heard or understood, you know, there were stories that were shared that had some truth to them that benefited somebody. It may not have, you know, spoke to my personal case or cause, and it may not be for the reason on a greater picture of what was mentioned, but yeah, it spoke to something to some people, and it was beneficial to some. But what scares me is this is on a university campus. And so, again, like Lauryn Hill, we'll probably never see her again in the limelight. She had the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. We're miseducating the people in general, starting at the school level, university level. Some of the things that they spoke about were how in third graders, now they're profiling, you know, who's likely to be criminals in third grade. One of the things that I talked about before they spoke about that, when we were whatever mingling, you know, having whatever stuff they set out for food or whatever, I spoke to a person that actually was a psychiatrist that was an alumni of FAMU. And she, you know, one of the things that I presented to her, she was like, oh, there's a lot of people that are mentally ill. You know, I didn't discuss to her, you know, and that's the thing about, you know, coming out and saying you're a victim of this system, because sometimes it's just like the good old boys club. Some things people will and will not share with you based on their knowledge of who you are, so you don't get their true opinions. Just like I was saying about addressing people's comments and things like that one-on-one, you know, once again, once you start to bond or connect, and this one was purely he listened to what I had to say, the meat of it, what was important, and he spoke on that. You know, it wasn't just fluff like I just see you. You know, this was important, and I want to say thank you because, again, you're giving me a voice because you've given me an opportunity to speak up on something. You know, you acknowledged and you heard what I was trying to say, you know, and I want to say thank you. But that was one of the things we mentioned. We were talking about me and this woman that's an alumni, and I asked her, did she do any public speaking and so forth, and she said no. She did where she was before in DC. Now, so we talked about that. She said a lot of people that are in the system have mental issues. And so, you know, I just sat back and I listened. But I told her, I said, you know, did they come into the system with mental issues, or were they developed after, you know, being exposed? And she thought about it. And she was like, you know, I think it might be a little of both. But I think she understood that a lot of them probably didn't come into the system that way. But people blame it on that. And that's the first thing when you go into the system, especially if you're in a position where you're where you don't have resources and you're defending yourself. The first thing they attack is your mentality. Because once you take that away, you not only disfranchise a person by saying that person's not good, but you also further mute that person by saying that there's an issue there. And once you do any of those two things, anything that person says, it doesn't matter. So it's a lot deeper than just this. And it says have access to higher education at a reasonable price is to not go back, because the system as it stands only wants to keep people down without having a way for them to help themselves get up. And I can kind of relate and understand that. And it's a way to silence people, not just all around. So I don't know if, you know, Mr. Greg Matic has a personal experience, you know, with that, but my time is coming to an end. So it's going to be a part 2, and I'm sorry it's so long, but thank you. You gave me an opportunity to speak on it. So part 2 is coming.